I received this letter this week from a viewer in the Netherlands about her experience of the past 3 years and how much she came to count on independent media online. Quote, "It's been a strange, scary but also wondrous journey for me," she wrote, "and at times I really felt like I was losing my marbles. Finding those voices online has helped me immensely in keeping myself grounded just by knowing I wasn't the only one seeing what I thought I was seeing. Oddly enough, it was finding those voices that made me give myself permission to trust my intuition. Looking back, I wonder why and how I ever became that person that doubted their own judgment. Trusting myself made me refuse the vax and not participate in the QR code for admission foolery. I'm so grateful I did and relieved I'll never have to look back and feel ashamed for not sticking to my principles." Amen to all that, sister. With those words in mind, I want to start by offering some early Christmas cheer, and if not cheer exactly, encouragement to those who've spent years putting up with the dog's abuse for standing in the face of ruthless and relentless state propaganda and lies. Propaganda and lies that are still pushed now. If I could take my most sincere love and admiration and put it in a big red box tied with a golden bow, it would go first and foremost to all those who found their voices and spoke. I raise the next of several glasses to those who said no to the COVID jabs, products pushed by the unholy alliance of governments and big pharma, and cheered on by supine media flat on its face and crawling loss of employment, and kept going with our efforts to keep safe ourselves and, infinitely more important, our children. To all those I say, we were right, and that simple knowledge must be its own reward, for there will be no other, on account of the fact that no good deed ever goes unpunished. We were right, you were right. A war was waged against you, is still being waged, but you, outnumbered and embattled, have won that war in every way that matters, regardless of what might happen next. Standing ground and holding firm when every evil trick in the book was pulled, eagerly aided and abetted by that mainstream media, quote, "It's time to punish Britain's 5 million vaccine refuseniks." Remember that one? And countless comments online calling for the unjabbed to be held down in the street and dealt with, refused medical care. Shrugging all that off and keeping on was a damn tough bullet to chew, but you did it and you were right. We are right. By now, the AstraZeneca offering, pumped into countless millions of arms, has been withdrawn and labelled defective. And the state of Texas is suing Pfizer. Imagine that. Texas is one of only 2 US states with a population in excess of 30 million, the size of a medium country. And the state prosecutor there is taking Pfizer to court, alleging, amongst much else, that their jab, pushed into billions more arms around the world, was, get this, just 0.85% effective against COVID. Less than 1%, for God's sake. And that's without getting into the deaths and harms undeniably resultant from all those products marketed and pushed as vaccines. Pfizer, now accused of misleading the people, long ago admitted they didn't test to see if their product would stop the passing of COVID from person to person because they weren't asked to. And yet safe and effective was the mantra of all mantras. Take this now or you'll be murdering Granny. Safe and effective, eh? Ho, ho, ho. All those months when just mentioning the jabs in a negative light was like saying Voldemort's name out loud, when independent media channels faced censure and worse just for asking questions about them. And now here we are. The AstraZeneca jab is withdrawn and called defective, and Pfizer are being sued by the state of Texas. All those accusations of misinformation, disinformation and malinformation levelled at anyone who so much as put their hand up and asked a question. And yet even now, with Pfizer in court, CEO Albert Bourla's empty boasting of 95% effectiveness for his company's product is still out there, officially unchallenged, no apologies for false claims, and with endless testimony from the likes of Joe Biden on down, still chanting the safe and effective nonsense. We know now that when Big Pharma found itself with lakes of unsold product in the face of what they called hesitancy, Biden's White House told Big Tech to silence any questioning of the jabs, and Google and Facebook and others obliged. We know this. We can say this now without fear of contradiction. Those who stood and continue to stand in the face of all that, I raise a glass to you and with you and wish you good cheer. To those of you who called out in the face of more propaganda, the war in Ukraine, another raised glass. It was about saving democracy, we were told. It was nothing to do with NATO expansion, we were told. Putin had to be stopped in the Ukraine or he would invade the rest of Europe, we were told. There was nothing useful to know about the story of Russia and Ukraine before Russian military crossed the border on the 24th of February 2022. Open brackets, don't mention the coup d'etat engineered by the US in 2014 when a democratically elected pro-Moscow president was ousted in favour of a pro-Washington offering, followed by the better part of a decade of murderous attacks on Russian citizens of the Donbass, close brackets. There might have been an early end to the ugliness, but our own former Prime Minister Boris Johnson was dispatched by NATO to scupper the fledgling peace deal. And so the corpses of more than 500,000 Ukrainian and Russian men, women and boys are cold now in Ukrainian clay. To all those who had questions about all that from the start, who wanted to know more about Ukraine and its tortured history, about Nazis and Baba Yar, about how much money was made by arms manufacturers that lobby ceaselessly and successfully for war without end, about blatant corruption that sees billions made while millions die. To all those who had questions about all of that and thought it better to ask them than to stay quiet while generations were harvested like grass, to all those I say, you were right. To those who look on helplessly at horror heaped upon horror in the Middle East, that benighted so-called Holy Land, to those whose stomachs are turned and hearts broken by unspeakable, unforgiven evil visited upon women and children, and just want it all to stop, I say you're right to keep speaking up. I remember the line from the Talmud, he who saves one life saves the world entire. To those who watch slaughter far away, slaughter that only brings the threat of slaughter closer to our undefended borders, to troubled communities shaken and stirred here at home, I say, keep asking why it must always be this way. I say that now, right now, asking questions is more important than ever, because always underlying all the most obvious malevolent and manipulative manoeuvrings, the horror shows that boil the blood, simmers another narrative of a quite different sort. It's the Rome to which all twisted roads lead, and which more than any other will be our undoing if we don't see it for what it is, the so-called climate crisis. And while we're deliberately distracted by all the rest, by pandemic, by missold medical products, by politicians' lies, by war, by atrocity, we are bled of all our freedoms and rights, and it's those wounds that will hurt us most of all. To all those who use their voices to question the suicide note that is net zero and do so in the face of ridicule and condemnation, we know that we, the human species, are the carbon to be reduced. I salute you too. Last week, the front pages of the relic media were lit up by the revelation that in November, during a video call with a former UN Special Envoy for Climate Change, Sultan Al Jaber of the United Arab Emirates, President of COP28 and Chief Executive of UAE state oil company ADNOC, said there was no science indicating a phase-out of fossil fuels is needed to restrict global heating to 1.5 degrees centigrade, and that to take away oil and gas would take the world back into caves. The Sultan's remarks sparked outrage from the usual suspects, but his choice of words was important. Back into caves. Out of the mouths of babes and sultans, it turns out, comes truth. Those dismissive of any crisis suspect the intention of the suicide note of net zero is precisely, as Al Jaber says, to so impoverish the developed industrialised West that a new dark age ensues, global neo-feudalism that will see a tiny group of unimaginably wealthy people reign over the billions as we scrabble for scraps. Look around now as the nights draw in, as they always do at this time of year in the north, and the sun is absent and the wind doesn't blow, and know that turbines and solar panels ain't going to cut it for the peoples of the northern hemisphere. Know too that claims of climate crisis are the stick with which we are beaten into submission to digital IDs and programmable tokens in place of the freedom to save or spend our earnings as we see fit without the surveillance and permission of the state. To all those who know this, who've been speaking out about this for years, I say your voices are more powerful than perhaps you know. Here's the thing, as the author of the letter I quoted at the top makes clear, even in the darkest of times, we should know we are on a wondrous journey, and the truth is that more and more fellow travellers are joining every day. The more you speak, the easier it becomes to say more. I say, no, you are right. Don't doubt that you are right.